So, pantomime. First, we need to look at the history of pantomime. Firstly, we have to explore what pantomime is and what it means in the context of the modern day. Pantomime is a type of play in which the audience is encouraged to interact with actors on stage by shouting out, and in doing so give certain scenes life. Pantos generally are meant for child audiences and can be rather rude and filled with innuendos, so that adults that may be watching would not feel like the panto is not for them. Stories in pantomimes generally consist of simple concepts and plots like, for example, Cinderella, love that conquers even through socio-economic differences, and between lovers, love conquers all. Peter Pan, coming to terms with the fact that we all grow old, but not letting the change us, and the sense of wonder, no matter what changes that do occur within one's life. Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, giving the most important and understandable fact of life, that's cars are magic. Yeah. All stories can be understood by different ages, races, genders. It's a wide demographic performance due to the simplicity of the storylines and increasing relatability of the story and the characters as it goes on. So, where did pantomime come from? The word pantomime comes from the Greek word pantominos, probably butchering that, which means imitator of all. While the Romans had a form of pantomime which was generally sexual in nature and was based upon the myth and or legend, with a silk-clad dancer who was male, that would be accompanied by a small man who would play a prop and a chorus of singers that would accompany the dancer's moves, and the music was generally played on a flute. Performances were held in houses, but with often smaller casts, but sometimes it was held in larger venues, and those would require a large ensemble. The Roman style of pantomime can be linked to the modern ballet as they convey all the story through the movement of the actor. Roman pantomime only shares the base points of telling a story, having music within the play, and rather risque with its sense of humour. It's very on the nose at times. So, Commedia dell'arte. Wait, what is Commedia dell'arte? I think you're going to be saying. No, it's not funny, computer. Commedia dell'arte. Did you get it? Del? Ha, I'm funny. But it is the name of a popular theatre style that came about in the early modern period in Italy. Commedia dell'arte literally translating to comedy of professional artists. How did pantomime... Actually, I'll go more into Commedia dell'arte. Commedia dell'arte had stock characters in which they would be exaggerations of themselves, and then there would be the plain characters, which would be normally the hero and the damsel. But these other stock characters are exaggerations, like there's a doctor that puts his nose out first, and he would wear an old medieval doctor's mask to accentuate that. So it's basically exaggeration of certain things. How did pantomime develop into what it is now? Slapstick comedy was one of the main factors in the popular re-emergence of the pantomime in the late Victorian period. Slapstick is a type of comedy in which people are injured or abused in a comedic manner. For example, being hit with a fish or being cream pied, normally with a pie made from shaving cream or whipped cream, as it'll just, it'll be easy to clean off. Always the main thing that attracted British audiences to the stage of pantomime was its sense of humour, especially at this critical time in history in which machines ruled the minds and the hearts of the common people's lives, and being safe to say that the time was rather depressing to live in, with poverty on everyone's doorstep and hunger being rampant. So people turned to being entertained, as we all do. One of the most popular plays at this time was Dick Whittington, which is still seen in the modern times, which focuses on the tale of Dick Whittington and his cat, the former of whom became the Lord Mayor of London. It was based upon a real-life character, so more people were able to relate to it easier, and it became an instant hit with crowds of Victorian audiences that absolutely adored the play. In the modern age, most pantomimes are filled with innuendos and childish humour that makes everyone with a funny bone chuckle or even giggle. Most pantomimes are filled with soap operas, actors or actresses, as they seem to suit the role more than the serious actors and seem to have more free time. Pantomime has changed, some for the good, some for the worst. Sometimes pantomime can seem rather pointless, as people have heard the stories time upon time and can recite it by hand. Sometimes, but that is when panto shines in comparison to most modern day productions, as they can change the story so much but still can keep the similar pillars of the story. My opinion on pantomime, though, has changed quite recently, as I have kind of fell out of love with pantomime and its ways and how it's all put together, because I think in the current time and the climate, like especially our political climate, I understand that we need comedy, but I would rather see something that actually takes risks, and pantomime seems to be very stagnant in taking risks at this point. It's very by the books. It's like in Dick Whittington, it'll be a genitals joke here, genitals joke there, but it'll be, I think pantomimes would be better if they constantly improved instead of being this stagnant art form that they are seeming to be now. But that's just my opinion on it. I know pantomime has been one of the best things for some actors, and I hate to make it out as like the worst thing ever. The worst thing is probably live art, but that's my criticism of pantomime. It needs to be reinvigorated, rekindled. Something new has to happen for it to seem interesting to me. Otherwise, it's, in my mind, it is a dead art form. Well, that's my context of pantomime and my pantomime research as well, because I looked at Dick Whittington and all those other things like Cinderella. I watched Cinderella, the movie, and also I watched a few scenes that I could on YouTube of the actual pantomime, and it's really the basis of where I get this idea that pantomime is going stagnant, because if you watch pantomimes enough, you can predict what the jokes are, and that's kind of sad to think, because when viewing a piece of comedy, I like to be surprised, and I don't want to know what the joke is going to be, because that ruins the joke. It's like explaining the joke to me. It just ruins it. It's the exact same thing to me. Yeah, so thank you. That was my context of pantomime and my history of pantomime and my panto research. Thank you. Bye.